Hi there. So we are going to be learning about why and how we use our metronomes. So we use a metronome primarily to control our rhythm so we know exactly what we're doing. And the metronome helps us flesh out those human errors that can sometimes pop up when you're learning a new rhythm. And sometimes you hold a note for too long, and the metronome can expose that for you so that way when you start playing with other people or you start playing towards a recording, you don't lose your time. We're going to be using metronome beats for this example. Let's take a look. So this is the metronome that we're going to be using. This is Metronome Beats, available on the App Store. Should be on iOS as well. So it's got a few functions. You're not able to change the sound, so you only have the one sound setting. You are able to change the tempo as well as the beats per bar and subdivision, lots of different things. So we'll break that down here. So starting with the stuff at the bottom of the screen, we can see our beats per bar in the middle left, just underneath the sliding bar. So when we change that, we can see the top of the screen changes the beats that are present. We'll put that back to 4. We can also change the subdivision of the beats. That subdivision means how many clicks will sound per beat, or how many clicks will sound as each light passes to the next. So we'll set that to 2. Well, we'll set that to 1, just so we can hear that first. Then we can set our tempo. So we have multiple ways to set our tempo. That slider that we mentioned before, we can slide that back and forth to get different tempo. We can tap the +5 or -5, +1 and -1, and these will do exactly what they say. These are great ways to step things up in a very small but noticeable way. Then we can also tap the tempo, and when we tap the tempo, that achieves the tempo that you're feeling, and it'll automatically start playing for you, so you don't have to hit the play button. The last feature to look at Metronome Beats is the bottom left of the screen. It's the tempo trainer. So this is why we use this app. This allows you to do a count-in so you can be prepared for the first beat, and then you can select increase tempo. When you do that, you're going to see that menu pop up, right? Every 5 bars, 4 bars, whatever you want, you can have an increase of a set amount of BPM. Here we have 5 BPM every 4 bars. And then it maxes out at the preset of 240. Now we can change all of that. We're generally working around 60 to 100 BPM. So we can set this max out at 90 here, so it's nice and controlled. And we can do it with the slider or by typing it in. Same thing, we can do 4 bars, or we can do 8 bars, or change the requirement over to seconds. We can do the exact same thing for decreasing tempo, and this allows us to control our tempo at different speeds in a very controlled fashion. So what is BPM? It stands for beats per minute, and we as humans don't really feel anything less than 60 BPM. We can hear it, and anyone that's able to feel it internally is subdividing. And we talked about subdividing briefly earlier. That's when you're hearing multiple clicks per beat. So that's what exactly we'll do to overcome that cap of 60 BPM, because sometimes it's too fast to practice at 60 BPM. So when we lower our subdivision, which means starting to count from, instead of quarter notes, we use eighth notes, the lower subdivision, and then we use 2 clicks. We effectively slow the music down while having more clicks So putting that to use, what we'll do is we'll start with the chromatic scale, and we'll use that metronome. I have it here set to 60. And what we do is we can start by very basically using one beat, one pluck per click, right? We have these clicks. Right? Now, it can be difficult sometimes at that pace for some people. So what we can do is we can make it faster. Right? If we hit stop, we can hit clicks per beat, 2, and slow the whole tempo down under 60. Now we can feel it. Tick, tock, and you hear that click while the light's not moving. And we play the note twice. This keeps our fingers doing the same thing that we would at the fast tempo. Gives us more response though. And so what happens when we get comfortable with that? Well, we can keep that same subdivision we had. I turned it back down to 45, which is what I had after the 60. We can start putting rhythms on that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now it's not lining up on the beat. We do that with a pick. We start getting different rhythm styles. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And it gets you used to that different feeling. So you want to set rules for yourself so you can be very efficient, right? What we do is we start with clapping. We turn the metronome on and clap when we play to make sure that we know the rhythm. Here we're clapping every beat because we're playing on every beat. This sets our hands up for success and our body to remember we play on that sound. So now we want to take out that subdivision. So we'll stop it, remove it. Still at 45, but we're still looking to maintain that subdivision in our head. So we'll do the clapping again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and right? That clapping helps us establish where we're playing in relation to the beats. And you're looking at your sheet music the whole time to make sure you stay steady. Rule 2, we'll take the weakest part of our piece. For the chromatic scale, that's generally the descending part, and we'll find out what tempo we can play that perfectly at. So for common issues, it'll be with string switches. So we'll slow this way down here. Right? Oh, so there was that hesitation. We need to slow it down just a little bit more. Right? So we make sure that we come in on time. We count ourselves in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have good rhythm. This gives us enough time to pay attention to each finger. Make sure that they're prepped. Here we're focusing more on the fingers rather than the notes. So how do we know that that tempo was slow enough that we can control it? Well, if we can play it 3 times perfectly on the hardest part of the piece, well, now you've proven that's your tempo. So you can then start incrementally building from there. As we saw on the app, we have those +5 and -5 options. We can go into the lower left settings of metronome beats, and we can incrementally increase the tempo every set amount of bars. So if we're doing it at that speed, we might want to do 16 bars. We'll count it out for the requirement of each piece. So you can repeat it 3 times, maybe 5 times if you're making some mistakes here and there, right? And once you can get it 3 times perfect and you're comfortable, then you can have that automatically set back up another 5 BPM. Now you don't want to do this practice for too long, because this opens area for repetitive strain injuries. So do this carefully, do this focused for no longer than 5 or 10 minutes at a time. So lastly, we'll take a look at the C major scale and apply our metronome to that. So just like last time, I have it set as 45 BPM. This gives us our clicks in between each of the notes. So because our beats have 2 clicks, we'll play 2 notes per beat. So I'll count in 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? So now let's try switching that up a bit. Maybe we find that a little difficult, but we want to still make it challenging. We reduce it by 5 BPM. Now we're at 40 with the subdivision of 2 clicks per beat. Now we can try doing that thirds, or triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And make games from there to keep things interesting, to practice different rhythms that you wouldn't normally play, and to increase your dexterity skills in time.